in presence that you would explain it more, or is it just something you just want to mention?
Is that Akiva Marshall's voice that I hear?
Yeah.
Hi, Akiva.
Hi. Good morning.
It's the opposite.
Okay. We have, so to speak, all kinds of terms, references. And the point of all the terms is to draw our attention, to help us focus on what these terms are referring to. And that is the point of, let's say, the kavana and Mitzias, presence. I don't know exactly the context, but presence usually means some kind of an impact. Kavana is definitely beyond that.
It was in context to the advantage of the neshamas over the rest of creation, and neshamas particularly. Kavana brought our attention to this.
All right, we will bring this back. We will start from the line that is a third from the top of page Nun. The line begins with the word mechulakim.
Mechulakim, third of the way down. About a third of the way down.
Yeah. I'd like to go back and reintroduce the principle of shoresh, a root. Let us take go out from the godly creation to the human experience, to the human world. When you see a clock on the wall, you go into a house and you see a clock on the wall. What is that allude to? What does this represent? A clock on the wall? Or the human presence?
The human presence.
But the human being put the clock up 5 years ago. Does it now assume an independent presence?
No. It's there for the human being, not for itself.
It still represents exactly the same thing that created it in the first place. And if not for that, if we are going to interpret the clock on the wall as an accidental a bank that hid the clock on the wall, you don't have it. You have a completely false perception. This false perception comes from the fact that the wall is a physical presence, the clock is a physical presence, and the clock on the wall is a physical presence. After all, the clock is hanging on. L'chaim, show me my Leah, she was a good year. The wall is a physical presence, the clock is a physical presence, the clock hanging on the wall is a physical presence. There's nothing human about it. It's a nail. Surely it's a human being, but that's passé. And since it's passé, who knows how it happened? Maybe the nail flew and it hit the wall and got hung up. And surely it could happen. Not that it could happen practically, but there's nothing spiritual about the nail being in the wall. And therefore, the actual fact as we are observing it, if we were to observe it with our hands, this is what I call with our instinct, animal instinct. The animal does not see that there's a human being behind the clock. He won't see it in a million years. Even if he sees the human being putting on the clock, he doesn't realize he doesn't correlate them. Godly grace, He gave us this intelligence, this neshama, that sees the reality that is represented on the physical level. But it's the reality that we are to focus on and to see. And if we fail to focus on that, we are abusing this gift. I'm sorry, I'm going a step further because this will describe our world. And if we abuse this gift, we continue to create an imaginary world that really has makes no sense, and it draws us into all kinds of perversions. We are constantly repeating that the initial sense of life, which is the highest quality we have, the initial sense of life is represented in Ayin and Rotzen. If we pervert that, what happens? That real life is tivus, perverted tivus. That's what it is. Is that it's not a mirror of our world? It's a mirror of our world. It's a mirror at an academic level.
I missed how you got from Onig and Watson to the other thing that you mentioned.
I'm saying that only our intelligence can see the reality represented by any activity, by physical presence of it. Like I said, the clock on the wall is a completely different to a human being. It has a tremendous deep message.
Right.
But if you fail to see it,
You just see the physical clock.
if you just see it the same way as a dog would see it. And the philosophy of modern science is that if you see it like a human being, you imagine it. You must see exactly the same thing that a dog could see. And if you see anything beyond that a dog could see, then you imagine. Yeah, you can go into all kind of imagination. The dog would never concoct the idea that there was a big bang and things. But essentially, it's the same thing that the dog could see.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? This whole formulation is what's called instinct. Yes, this can happen, this can happen. This. But we are not to live on the instinctive level. We have to live on the intellectual level, on the neshama level, which is exclusive neshama, and a God neshama, a human neshama. Okay. So this brings us back to what is a neshama see that the instinct does not see. The neshama, the intellect sees what initiated this. What is the reality behind it that this represents? Not what I see physically. What does it stand for? There are many different levels. A table, what's the thought behind it, and so forth. But ultimately, like the Rambam says, what is the principle that a human being sees? Is that there is a first being. This is what substantiates all reality to the human being. Instinctively, you will never find it. But this is the essential, this is the essence of human consciousness. As I said, this is rooted in Ayin Base. And this will explain to us, and now we'll be able to focus even better, and constantly Chassidus refers to the shoresh. Shoresh on that, shoresh or Ayin. What does shoresh have to do with anything?
Root. No, shoresh olam or olam?
Yeah. What is the mocker and shoresh? What does it have to do with anything? It's what it is that I touch. So, pointing out that the shoresh, this is what its reality is. And the shoresh is what permits it to continue to be. And if it would dissociate it from its shoresh, it would cease to be. The shoresh is what gives it its impetus, its chayas, and its presence. All right. And here we are in the midst of digging in and putting into words something that is really beyond words, beyond a physical presence. Putting into words a principle. That there's world, which is a creation. Then there's neshamas, which is a creation. And they are very, very, they're fundamentally different. World, by definition, has a finite presence. Neshamas have an infinite presence. And
the world is not infinite.
As big as the world is, its message is the finite element. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Its message is finite.
Yes.
I just want I want to understand the sequence of Onig and Ratzon and Seichel. Is that the Onig and Ratzon precipitates a person who wants to think beyond the physical eyes, or is that the outcome? Or is the Onig and Ratzon the outcome of the Seichel that he realizes something beyond the physical? Or is it one?
No.
What's the answer?
Seichel is based on anything else.
Okay.
Based on what? Anything else? The Koch's Pnim, the Koch's Makif.
So the person has any rough, maybe he has it.
Not the nefesh. This is a nefesh.
Okay.
Kol kochas makif.
Rabbi, when you
I'm scared when you open your mouth. Go ahead.
when you speak of, when you use the word truth, okay, in these contexts, the thing, the things, the truth of the thing, it seems like everything has. There's only one truth, and that's that there's a God. How do you contrast that? Okay, in what sense do we use it that way? And but we also we hear how we use the word truth and saying that the table has its truth. A man has his truth. A woman has her truth. A Jew has his truth, and a goy has their truth. And an animal has their truth. Okay. How do we differentiate between those two uses of the word truth? It's a complicated question.
There's a relative truth and an absolute truth.
Okay.
That's it. Yeah, now I'll let you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have, as I said, putting into words something that is really beyond words. Neshamas versus world. World has an inherent limit. Neshamas are inherently limitless. And how can it be anything without limit? It's a creation.
Rabbi Paltiel?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I was going to let this go, but since you did it twice now, I want to ask this. Probably not going to shut. So we say that a neshama is a chelik elokah al mamish. Including the word mamish. How is that a creation?
Why do we say that neshamas is a creation? It's a chelik elokah al mamish. All right, we'll attend to that also as we go. So how can there be something that is without limit, even though it's a creation? The fact is there are many neshamas. Many neshamas means that there are many intentions in creating each neshama. What is the meaning of saying that neshamas are infinite, are completely different? Do not have an inherent finite message. The answer is that neshamas, wherever they are, at whatever level they are, they do not represent their presence, they represent the present, their source. This is unique in neshamas. Why is it that they continue to present their source no matter where they are? Whereas everything also has a godly source. And the whole world, everything is a godly creation, has a godly source. Why do they not continue to represent their source? Also be infinite.
I'm confused because
Huh?
you give the muscle of the clock or the table. Even when the clock is a clock, it's still representing the fact that there's a human element.
The clock can do it. How come the rest of the world can't do it?
How are we using the term? I mean,
The clock can do it only if you find it hanging on the wall. If you find the clock in the garbage pail, it no longer does it. A yid, we point out all the time. You find a yid lying in the gutter. Something disinterested to any human value. And you study, no, it's the same human being. He cannot lose. He cannot lose his reality. I'm just responding to the question as they come, because ultimately we should get to the point. If we have questions behind our mind, we're not going to get to them. So, again, to use a Moshe without Moshe, they'll never, they won't be able, they don't have the words to present it. And now Moshe, they have, what the Gemara says, Odom she'ein lebayis ein yodom. That a house represents the reality of a human being. To the point that he doesn't have a house, a home. He's not a human being. Okay, they understand that the significance of that statement. He's still alive. He doesn't have this human presence in the world. We discussed it many times. In this house, there are furnishings, and the house is populated with all human needs. A human being must have these things. He has to have a table, he has to have a chair, he has to have a bed, he has to have spotting, whatever it is, he has to have all kinds of things. All of these things, that clock on the wall, all represent the human being. What is the difference between all of the things that represent the human being and the initial Beis? The Gemara doesn't say a person who doesn't have a table is any other. Yet a person, he says, there is something human about a table. We spoke about it many times. Yet, that statement, Odom she'ein lebayis ein yodom, applies only to a Beis. It's not, yes, it's not appropriate, it's not respectful, it's not dignified. But the ein yodom doesn't say anything except for a Beis. What is the difference? You have to understand the following. I'd like you to follow this. Yes, indeed. It's a human thing to sit around the table. It's a human thing to be in a home. To have your own home. Have your place. The reason,
Just consider.
can hear.
The sound in here is terrible.
Huh? Oh, because it's out of the air. The reason all right. Scratch the last sentence. I'm going to go back to the basics. What is the meaning that Odom Shein Lebayis Ein Yochid? It is that the human presence in the world is meant to be on a fundamental level, not for personal purposes, eating and drinking and for personal experience. His presence contributes something to the world. And therefore, in order to contribute to the world, he has to have a set place, an established, is to have part of the world that should belong to him. That way he contributes to the world. Without having that level of relationship, only contribute to the world with his wisdom and his talents and all that, without having this fundamental presence, he's not really a part of it and doesn't really contribute to it. Give you an example, an illustration. It may be a silly, it's not a silly, it's a real example. We have the sports. Sports is a rampant craze in the world for many, many years. And the sports is celebrating human daring, human precision, human talent. And also, in yesteryear, sports also demonstrated human tolerance and cooperation. It was a human spirit in this. Like, if my colleague hit the ball well, I celebrate as if I hit it myself. This was in yesteryear. So therefore, inherent in that, there's an interesting phenomenon. That if you're from New York, you are a fan of the Yankees or the Mets. Why not the White Sox? I don't know, whatever town. They're good players. When you watch them play, aren't you just as intrigued as when you watch the Yankees? Okay, I'm speaking words that I don't really relate to, but but this is what happens. I know that happens. People, I'm going to the game. What's going to be? What's the difference? Right? What's the difference? Really, what's the difference whether it is a Yankee that hit the ball or some other team?
It's you. Your presence.
There's much of the other. The Yankee hit the ball. It's a real human being who hit the ball. He really belongs. I relate to him. Somebody from elsewhere, the ball was hit. There was no human being behind it. Isn't that reality?
Versus sometimes a Haimashiri.
A Haimashiri, exactly right.
Well, what about Haimashiri?
A Haimashiri. There is, in the human being, there is that sense that I mentioned to you, a very painful phenomenon, but very, very real. We have in today's world, and yesteryear also existed, but not to the extent that it is, we have people who do not know who their parents are. A kid who never knew who his father is, and a kid who never recognized his mother. Maybe he knew his mother, but mom is not so mom. He is just this man. He can commit a crime without a sense that he's doing anything wrong. Because the whole world is not real to him. When you see somebody suffering, yes, you see somebody suffer, but it's not that somebody. It's suffering in my world. I don't have a world. I don't have a world, so there are no people suffering in my world, in reality. Yeah, I see a person suffer, I see a dog suffer. This is where it came from. There's a difference. There is not basic reality. Please understand this. This is very true, very profound in the human being, because a human being is a true presence in the world. And unless he has that sense of the true presence, he can have seichel, he can have midas, he can have rachamim. It's not real. There's no fundamental truth to this.
Is the fundamental truth of what you're saying is that not having a father and mother is the ultimate suffering?
Yes, absolutely. You can find yourself no matter what happens. I mean, you can, with tremendous amount of effort, tzaddik, you can reach the point that the Rebbe is my father. But that is extremely challenging. So you have to have a very high madriga. In any case, I want to point out the principle. In the human being, we can understand it to whatever degree we understand, but the sense that there's something real about the human being, not just the right thing and the wrong thing, the nice, the intelligent, and the quality, the rachmos and the just the reality itself, and everything flows from that reality. Now, this is the difference between the home and the furnishings in the home. The furnishings in the home represent also the human being. The reason the human being has furnishings is because things that his presence in the world is to affect the world, to take his essence and translate it on seichel and midas. And therefore, he has to have the means by which he can translate it in seichel and midas. But please understand, the seichel and midas is a means to represent that reality. It's not the essence of the reality itself. So it's like you have to have a table, and you have to have a chair, and all that. But that is only to enable him to function as a human being. That's a functional element of the human being, rather than the presence of the human being, the essence of the human being. So the home reaches more deeply to the person. This is represented by the essence of the person. Everything else is also flows from the essence, but it flows from the essence as translated in its function, and seichel and midas and so forth. This inyan, that there is such a thing, that just a plain reality, I have to have a home. Not for functioning purposes. I've said many times. To sleep, I can sleep in a hotel. To eat, I can eat in a restaurant. To relax and to read, I can go into library. And I'm not a real person. That just this human reality. This is a godly gift. This is the reason he has it is not because of something that he developed, because he is a godly creation. This is what God put into him. The Gemara says, Adam nivri yichidi, we said that last time. The human being was created yichidi, one. Not like all the species created in groups. Why? Because one human being on his own, by himself, is already a whole world. Is a whole reality. It's a Gemara, Elam Molet. This is unique to the human being. How does a human being get that kind of presence, that kind of reality? He was created along with everything else. Right? In the 7 days of creation, he was created along with everything else.
Vayipach.
Huh?
Vayipach.
What does that mean, Vayipach?
The Shabbat.
It's talking about the
What?
the blowing of the neshama to somebody. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. How does he get this? If everything was created by Meirish. The difference between the way the human being was created and the way everything was created, it says everything was created with dibur, and utterance. What does a dibur mean? That the sound can be heard outside of the source. It always can be traced back to the source. Where does the sound come from? The source. Not only here it comes from the source, but as the Baal Shem Tov says, that the oases hadibur are constantly repeated, constantly refreshed. But as such, they are separate entities that are being recreated, are being produced. Meficha, blowing, does not have a separate presence. It exists as a direct flow from the source. This is the reason that they use the word meficha. The point is that going back to the principle that everything, that the source is what gives everything a presence. Everything in the world exists because of the sound that was produced by the atoms. And the Neshama exists because of the source itself. Not the sound that was produced, but the source itself. This is described in Chassidus in terms of rotzing and kavam. In the human being, I'm going there, whoever can follow this. There's the weak in human being is the neshama. This is the godly presence. The neshama, the way we are aware of the neshama, the way it is represented in the group, is through koiches and nefesh. Koiches. Seichel is a koich. All kinds of different koiches. 613 different koiches. Then, among the general level of koiches, there are koiches that's called koiches makifim and koiches panimim. Koiches panimim means koiches that have a specific function, and they actually function via being translated in some kind of a keli. Then there's koiches makifim. Koiches makifim means koiches that are also koiches, but they are koiches that are representative of the source. They don't stand away. They don't become separate entities from the source. They're all encompassing. Which is what's called rotzen in language. Rotzen is the will, and we can get lost in that will because we have experience of will, and I want, which is the result of some kind of an experience. I want this, I want that. The real element of called rotzin is not a rotzin that is the result of some kind of experience. And this is generally in Chassidus is referred to as the rotzin lichyos, the will to live. You have to understand this, that if a person is hungry and he wants to eat, yes, there's an immediate one because he is uncomfortable. What? I'm going to give you some kind of an extreme case. Okay? If a person, Rahman would be told that there is no food anymore for him. No more food. He knows what it means to be hungry. You mean to say from now on I'm going to suffer hunger till the end of my days? Or what is foremost in his mind? What's going to be to my life? Am I going to live? What strikes the person? The immediate concern about hunger, the suffering, or the essence of life? This is rotzen. Rotzen is not, I want to eat because I'm hungry. Rotzen is, I want to live. Why? Because I want to live. It's not an antidote to suffering. It's a reality. It's my reality. So if I'm going to fight, what strikes him? I can't lose my life. Forget about the suffering of hunger. It doesn't compare. Right? This is what I mean by rotzen. You know, but this rotzen, where does this will to live come from? From the living soul. It's not from experience. I don't live, so therefore I'm not going to eat bagels. I mean, what are we going to do? Life itself. This comes from the nefesh itself. This is what I mean by koiches ma'akifim are inseparable from their source. Because the nefesh is alive, that's why you have this will. This itself is a, so to speak, is a godly gift that the nefesh can be felt. The reality of the nefesh can be felt on koiches level. But it's a different level, not something that can be grasped and understood. It's felt on the koiches level, koiches ma'akifim, because I cannot be grasped in a cave. And the only way to demonstrate them is to hit hard. So otherwise you'll say, "Will, okay, well, I want to eat, I want ice cream," and it's all in the same level. It is when I lose connection to the nefesh itself, that's when I realize, hey, there's something I'm going to do. That will remains always representative of nefesh, of the nefesh, or the essence of the nefesh. It's not something that becomes part of the goof. It's not a goof experience. There are elements in human life, practical elements, that flow from this essence of the nefesh, from the very presence of the nefesh. They're not translatable in worldly terms. They're not translatable in koiches. It's nefesh. This kind of reality, please understand, to whatever degree we can understand, does not exist in the world. It's not a worldly reality. It exists in the world only because the world is a godly creation. It's a godly truth. It's not a worldly truth. In the world there has to be cause and effect. What are you going to miss? So this is what we distinguished before between having a home, or the a Beis, and having a table, which is also, I said, is also a human thing, and it flows from the same human quality. It flows from there, but it is not that. The home is inseparable from the human the reality to the point where you say he's not a human being. That is inseparable. And this is the difference between the shamans and the rest of the world. The rest of the world also represents the godly greatness. But it represents the godly greatness as it is translated in lower phenomena, in Chochmah and Bina. The shamans, they represent the godly truth per se. They come from what's called the Kavonas Halatzmas. If we should put this in terms, and then we go just, the world was created just as a home represents a human being. The world was created to represent its creator. Like we think, the mother says that the Ratzon HaBeis is to have a dira betachton. A dira means a home that encompasses his whole truth. In this dira betachton, he has to be recognized. Where is the godly reality in this world? Where is the godly reality in this world? In the great bridges and the skyscrapers. Yes, it's a lot. It is godly wisdom, authority, but where is it represented as such? In the Yid. This is where it's represented.
Dina is recognized. I have the Dina. It's different. Hashem wants to have the Dina, and so if once he has it, what means that it has to be recognized by others.
The point of it there is not having a Dina, it's tachtoinim. Tachtoinim means that there has to be external presences, others. Tachtoinim means the lowest level.
But here we're speaking not that the Tachtonim should recognize, we're speaking that Hashem wants to have a deal. If he wants, he has it, he's there. Where comes in the...
No, the Tachtonim should recognize it. Adam she'en Beis in Adam. He doesn't know that he's a human being. He knows he's human. But any Adam, because Adam means that he has to be in the world, the Adam. And he's not an Adam in the world.
In Hashem's Dira, the world is like the furnishings, and the Yidden are like the owner.
Exactly. This is the real thing.
What is the furnishings?
The world. Everything says the greatness of the neighbors, and that's what we mentioned in davening, Hashomayim and Hashomayim and all that. Yeah, everything. But What is the reality? Where is the God's reality? That's the matter. So the furnishings, the clock can be on the wall, it can be open. But that essential reality cannot be changed. It's whatever it is, it's the same thing.
So the entire idea when you talk about the clock being on the wall and off the wall is that the clock being the kalim being only not the essential will of the Eibishter in the context of the human being, it has to be in the proper context to actually relate the human intention behind it. But the world is the proper context for the worldly creation. So therefore that's why in davening we say everything that we say in terms of that the world as it exists properly is in the correct context to represent the Eibishter. So why are we saying now within the worldly context even the world does not properly represent the Eibishter and we have to look at the Yid?
It does not properly represent the Eibishter, except for the fact that the human being that we can recognize it. Only the human being recognizes it. Otherwise it does not. As I said many times, the world with all its richness and greatness, except for the human being, human presence, is nothing. Anyone who creates a world like that says, how stupid can you be? What are you doing? This is what we have in today's world. Human beings walking around with dogs trailing. I told you, we were in the park, and this lady has a pack of dogs behind her, and says, let's go, children. I turned to my wife and said, did you see that? Did you hear that?
In the carriage also.
The carriage. But this takes the cake. You know? Let's go, children. And if you think otherwise,
big trouble.
Big trouble.
So similar to the kalim and the bias, over here with Yid, we have that the entire world does represent the Eibishter, but you need the sumarei minechem, you need the einei haseichel in order to be able to perceive through the mitzias of the world and recognize its godly origin, and that's in the realm of the Yid, of the human seichel, whereas the Yid represents the Eibishter regardless of anyone is perceiving it. You don't need to put him in a context.
It's right, but the flow of logic that you're presenting is not the flow of logic that I like to see, because you're seeing it, the flow of logic as we see it from the world. This is not the way we see it. The reason we perceive the value of everything else is because we see it from a godly perspective, not from a worldly perspective. You understand what I'm saying? The wonders of the entire world, entire nature, can easily ask any scientist and say there's nothing wondrous about it. There was an eruption that became a big Everest. There was an earthquake, and this happens, and this happens. There's nothing wondrous about it.
Well, they say it's wondrous that it could come about through an accident. For them, that's the wonder.
And to us, it's a wonder how they can be so stupid. You understand? You have to see it the reason we see the seichel is because the seichel flows from our nefesh. Mm-hmm. If it didn't flow from the seichel, maybe it would have the wisdom of these idiots. Which needs no ways. It has no significance whatsoever. Okay, now that we have this introduction, the principle of showing the problem, now we can go inside. and I hope that we will now answer.
May I ask one?
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Hopefully this is not going to sidetrack, but Dibor and Neficha. No, maybe I'll ask you.
Alright, we said we're going to start from the line that goes, it begins with the word mechulakim. That's about a third from the top on page 9. It brings down from the Tanya. When in Tanya it says that the neshamas are masimos. Masimos means that they are suited for each other. They're all representing one and the same thing. The gufim are mechulakim. The gufim are different, are separate, and they're different madrigas in the gufim. But the neshamas continue to represent this one neshama. Not only with the way they were in the source, but even as they come into the guf in the world, they retain this masim, this quality. Go masimis. And now we're going inside. Aval ha-neshamas masimis. But the neshamas are masimis even in the world. As the neshamas descended from level to level into the physical world, they remain the same. V'hainu, and that is the mitzad shoresh nafshon b'havaya echad. That because of, or from the perspective, mitzad, the mitzad means from the perspective. Based on what we discussed, we can understand this form of expression. The mitzad shoresh nafshon, from the perspective of the source of their nefesh. B'havaya echad. In Havaya Echad, looking at the nefesh from the perspective of its source, then gam b'hamshochosom, even in the state of their being nimshach and drawn into the guf, into the world, masimois heina, they remain completely suitable for one another. They essentially remain the same. And why is that? Because their source in Havaya Echad is different than everything else. Because in their source, that is the essential source, which is not translated. It's because the Havaya Echad is here. That's why they are here. They're not here because Havaya Echad allowed them to be, like to Dibur and the sound. It is His presence that gives them a presence.
The last point is His presence that gives them a presence. Yeah.
His presence that gives them a presence.
Sorry, I don't perceive exactly the meaning of the word masimus.
Masimus means that all neshamas essentially are equal, even as they are in this world.
They're equal to each other, or they're equal to the way they were when they were first incepted?
Even as they are here in this world.
How can you say that? The Rebbe says they have the high neshamas from Atzilos. Some are greater than others. Some neshamas are greater than others.
That difference is only manifesting in their koiches. But in essence, they're exactly the same. And the proof of it is that they're all ready to give the Messiah nefesh. Because neshamas do not have a presence, but for their connection to Havaya. Okay, let's continue. Yes, sir.
Sorry, so before you go on, so you may still not want to answer this question. So regarding the Shevat as a creation, they're a creation, but the difference from every other creation is that they don't represent anything but their source.
Right.
identical to the source.
Right.
But that's a very fine line.
It's even finer than that. This is what we explained. We can project our mind a little bit to the terminology kavonas ha'atzmos. There's the will of the atzmos and there's kavonas ha'atzmos. And as we in our Moshe we distinguish this. Furnishings in the house is part of the will of the person to have a home. This is the experience of a home. He has a home, it's a peaceful place, and he has furnishings that accommodate him. Then there is an element in the human being wanting a home is beyond wanting. It represents him as a human, as a reality, as a human reality. It's kavonas ha'atzmos. This kavona that cannot be translated in any functional level at all. Why would a human being want to have a home? He is a human being. He's got a nefesh. Why do you need all that mishugas for? Why do you need to get involved in the world? It's his essential intent to be involved and to affect the world.
I'm sorry, it's his intentional intent
To be affected, to be involved in the world, and to be effective.
to be effective,
Yeah.
not for any functional reason.
Not for any functional reason. To represent himself in the world. Not himself, his selfish self. What he stands for.
That's like Lord Selechius?
Huh?
That's like Lord Selechius?
We're identifying
It's even
this with
deeper
the
than
word
Ratzon.
kavana.
It's even deeper than Ratzon.
It's deeper than Ratzon Lichios, but it's a representation. Okay.
What?
It's deeper than that, but yet it's a representation. It's not. It's not the neshama. It's not the neshama itself. It's some kind of representation, yet it's deep enough.
We explained it again. We explained that the sun produces light. This is the sun is permeated with light, and it produces light. Then there is the what's called the essence of the sun, that this is the etzem behiri. This etzem behiri, this is not a production of light. This is the presence of sun itself. And it is manifested in the form of light. But it's sun itself.
And your point here is that this is a muscle for kavana?
Yeah.
The behirius itself of the sun.
The not the behirius of the sun, but the fact that wherever the sun comes, it transforms it into bright, into light. Like we said, Memshel is by Yeh. The sun rules the day. Not by effort. Not action. Yeah, go ahead.
Was this reflected in the term kavana? Just trying to understand. Not that we really understand. How is it reflected in the term kavana?
Kavana is a very elusive element in all human activity. Like we said, you're walking someplace. You're going to this place because of what? Because this is the place of work. You work because you're going to be rewarded. And with this reward, you're going to acquire this, you're going to acquire that. Throughout this whole thing, there's one reality. You want to feed your family. You want to feed the family. That itself is really an afterthought, because you have Baruch Hashem a family, and they are hungry. You have to feed. There's already a solicitation there. I'm not even going to discussing because otherwise you're going to be punished. Just the reality. Yes, I want to feed my family, but you have something that demands it. But why do you have a family in the first place? Nothing forces you to do that. That's why I always ask, Bochim, when I talk to them about Shidduchim, they come from all over the place with all kinds of. I said, I want you to contemplate one simple question. Before you go into this. What would it be if you never got married? It doesn't come so simply, so quickly, because but eventually, after several iterations, that would be a terrible thing. And then you begin to think what this is all about. What's so terrible about it? They come back with all kinds of different things. You can imagine. Oh, then I haven't lived. What was missing? You had your ice cream. As a matter of fact, if you don't get married, you can have ice cream no more. Nobody's going to complain. You can eat everybody else's ice cream, right? Your wife is not going to complain that you're eating garbage food.
So that is behind, absolutely behind everything. This is Kavanah.
Right. The placing yourself in a position of identity is Kavanah.
Position of identity.
Yeah, I'm here. Why? You can be into yourself. You don't need to be here.
We do see that you can be here in the world and really reject, like, is that just the limitation of the mashal? I mean, is that in a neshama you cannot have that?
Yes, that's a limitation. That's the limitation of the extent to which we are sensitive to our truth in the guf. This is why to wake us up, we have to ask a question: what would happen if we never got married? From a negative perspective.
But mitzad neshama, the kavanah is not. You cannot ignore it at all.
Absolutely.
Cannot ignore what?
It's not, therefore, it's not an expression. It's one with the.
It's one with the neshama, of course. Absolutely, that's what neshama is all about.
What was the question?
Cannot ignore
Kavanah.
That mitzad the neshama, there is no such thing. The neshama has to be aroused to want to be a neshama, to want to do its thing.
Has to be aroused to come down to body, though. I mean, the neshama unto itself seems to have a life that precedes body, goes beyond world.
And true, but if we want to go there, and what arouses it? Reward?
What arouses it? We say that Hashem kind of decides or compels
that
it to
its
go.
own truth, it finds its own truth in coming down in the world.
Finds its own truth. What?
You're going to the world, you say, where am I going? Where am I going? Hey, wait a second. Your truth will be expressed here. Your own truth, and that you identify with. And that's not so easy to see.
Even from the Shama?
Even for the Neshama.
So, I mean, okay, so at the outset it didn't want to come, but it seems like there's an intent that is outside of it, and hence it has some benefit having come down.
No, the word benefit is...
Okay, leave out benefit. It has some. Here's where you said it finds itself in a way, but unto itself it seemed not to want to come, and then was kind of compelled.
The reason it doesn't want to come is because it has its truth there.
Right.
And then it realizes, it's been shown that truth to its fullest will be expressed coming here. That same truth to its fullest will be expressed.
That's the Baal Korcha?
Huh?
That's the Baal Korcha?
That's Baal Korcha.
Yeah, and when we reviewed Sunday, where we had and was said today, Yechidi, a soul, the shamas are made as singular entities, Yechidi. So I was thinking, well, what does it care then for anything of world? But here we're bringing out this Indian of, even though it's so singular and contained, somehow being in the world and having a name here and doing things in the world matters to it or fits with its own intent. So
because through Birur of the world, this is where this truth is revealed.
Uh-huh.
And only through Birur of the world.
Only
All right, we went.
Took a journey.
Took a journey, right? But I guess it was necessary once in a while to take that journey.
It's necessary over and over again, actually.
Every day.
All right. This is it for this morning. And tomorrow we'll reconvene and we'll have what's called a normal stream.
Normal?
Every day is new. It's new.
Every day is new.
Tomorrow is...
Have a good day.
I don't want to say it's doing the shir because it's not really again, but I had a similar experience as the Rav, from a different perspective. Because the shir is also a springboard for everything other things. Okay, but I